Immigration is promising a hardline approach to rounding up wayward tourists, flouting isolation rules, and it's calling on you to dob those people in. 2 tourists are tonight in lockdown in Christchurch awaiting deportation after refusing to stay isolated for 14 days. Immigration's Stephen Vaughan says the rules are clear, and if you fall foul of them, they're coming to get you.
Well, essentially anybody that has come to New Zealand is required to self-isolate. Since Saturday, when the government announced that every person entering New Zealand from anywhere in the world would be required to self-isolate for 14 days, that's excluding the Pacific. So the vast majority of people have come in and they've absolutely complied and they are self-isolating. But for a handful of people, there are willful non-compliers who have refused to do so, and we're tracking them down and deporting them.
And are those, visitors to the country, obviously, if you're looking to deport them?
Absolutely. Foreign nationals who have come to New Zealand, aware of the requirements to self-isolate and willfully not complying.
What kind of numbers are you talking about here, Stephen?
Very, very small numbers, probably 5 or so people at the moment that we're actively pursuing. And when you compare it to the vast majority, the thousands of people who are actually complying with the self-isolation notification, then it's a dramatically small number. However, significant, and this completely irresponsible behaviour will not be tolerated.
So when you say you're actively pursuing them, what does that mean?
Well, when people come into New Zealand, they fill out a arrival card, and we're aware of their details. We will contact them, we will visit them, we will get an explanation from them, and if they're not complying with the health requirements, they will be liable for deportation, they'll be quarantined for 14 days, and then they will leave New Zealand.
So, in terms of the ones that you are wanting to chase down now, are they wayward? Do you not know where they are at this point?
As we speak, we're making inquiries to locate, as I say, a handful, very small number of people. We've yet to get an explanation from them, but if they are willfully non-complying, then they will follow the same pathway as the people from yesterday morning from Southeast Asia who failed to comply with the requirements to self-isolate. They've been made liable for deportation. They are being quarantined at the moment. They are detained. And after the 14-day period, or 13 days now, if you accept that they've been in our custody since yesterday, they will leave New Zealand.
So a couple of things there, Stephen. Are these people you are onto because you've done spot checks, or how has it come to your attention that they maybe aren't playing by the rules?
Well, from a variety of sources. So the public have contacted us directly, or they have been on in the media saying they were willfully non-comply, and we've identified who those people are. But as I say, the numbers are very, very small. But anybody who has any information in relation to a foreign national who may have come to New Zealand who is not complying, then we encourage them to contact us.
So in terms of the ones that are liable for deportation, you mentioned that they have to wait out their 14 days of isolation. Where are you keeping them?
Well, the places that they're detained are approved by the Ministry of Health as a facility in which they can stay and do their quarantine. And they're in different parts of the country that can be assigned or placed as a Ministry of Health facility. And once they've done the 14 days, then they get deported.
So are they under lock and key as such, or is someone keeping a constant eye on them?
Well, they are absolutely under lock and key and quarantine, and an eye has been kept on them to make sure that after the 14-day period, they leave New Zealand.
Are they in jails or are they in health facilities?
Health facilities that have been designated as quarantine facilities, and these can be assigned by the Ministry of Health in different parts of the country. The ones at the moment that were made liable for deportation from Southeast Asia are in isolation in Christchurch.
Okay, so is that a hospital, do you mean, when you say health facility?
Well, it's just a designated health facility that the Ministry of Health would designate a facility to be a quarantine facility for these very purposes. It is not a hospital and it is not a prison.
So, Stephen, are you using electronic bracelets at all, or is that an option?
That's probably a question for the Ministry of Health, actually, as opposed to us. We're not in this case. These people, as I say, are being quarantined in a health facility that's been designated as such, and we are monitoring them clearly to ensure that after 14 days they leave New Zealand.
So in terms of tracking these people down, who's helping you? Do the police play a role here? Are you working together?
It's a multi-agency operation with police, customs, Ministry of Health and Immigration New Zealand, where any information that is given to any of the agencies or we become aware of it, we will actively pursue people who we believe are willfully non-complying. And as I say, the same process will be meted out to them as was with the people from Southeast Asia yesterday.
What was their reaction when you tracked them down?
I wasn't actually part of the team that spoke to them. However, it was explained to them that they were in breach and that they were not complying with the Health Act. And even if you accepted, which we don't, that they didn't know that prior to coming to New Zealand, when entering New Zealand, it is absolutely clear of what your requirements are, and they didn't comply. And of course now, in 13 days' time, they'll be heading back to where they came from.
So are we picking up the bill for this, or do they have to pay for their 14 days accommodation?
Well, there's a cost recovery program with anyone that's deported from New Zealand. In most cases, people that are deported from New Zealand, they can't come back to New Zealand within a 5-year period, but if they do, they have to pay for the cost of their deportation.
So these cards that passengers are now filling out when they arrive, these are obviously critical to your operation.
That's correct, yes. They're on arrival, passengers are filling out arrival cards into New Zealand. They fill out the health cards. There's also a telephone follow-up. And the Ministry of Health is also in the process of establishing the spot checks alongside the multi-agency approach I've just described.
So do you play any role in monitoring New Zealand citizens?
Immigration New Zealand is responsible as the authoritative source of all foreign nationals in New Zealand. So we are focused on foreign nationals who come to New Zealand and cross our border as opposed to New Zealand citizens.
So of a day, how many people would you be checking up on?
Well, any person that crosses the border clearly is met by a border officer. And then the people who we believe are in breach, of which there are a very small number of foreign nationals, 5 or less, we are actively attempting to identify those people. We have 2 people in custody, as you're aware of, who will be deported in 13 days' time. And any other information that we get, we'll certainly be acting on.
So, what would you say to people out there listening to this when they think, I've watched that backpacker wandering around the neighbourhood or going down to the shops, and I know they should be in lockdown? What do you say to people observing that kind of behaviour?
Well, they have watched that sort of behaviour. We have watched that sort of behaviour. We know who those people are, and we're actively pursuing them. They will be detained. They will be quarantined, and in 14 days, they will go back to where they come from.
So do you want people to call you if they see things that they think just aren't right?
Absolutely. This is totally irresponsible behaviour. I would be amazed if anyone coming into New Zealand wouldn't know about our quarantine facilities and the compliance with the Health Act. And even if they did arrive not knowing, going through the border, they're absolutely aware of it. So it's, for me, completely irresponsible. We're not tolerating it. We've got a zero tolerance around it. We're going in very hard and very early to ensure that the safety of people in New Zealand are protected.
Yeah, so you're taking it really seriously.
Absolutely. It's completely irresponsible, and as I say, we will not tolerate it.
And that is Immigration New Zealand's Stephen Vaughan.